started with questions. We have the boom mics around the room. If you please raise your hand, we'll get the mic to you. First question right up here in the front.
Coach, I know that technically this is a rematch from last year, but I'm wondering what differences you see from both teams going into this finals.
I think we are mostly the same in terms of personnel. I think we have more confidence having been through the whole run last year and then what we've gone through this year and the adversity we've faced with injuries. So I think we're stronger at our core, but we're very similar as a basketball team. I think they are dramatically different. Obviously, they're healthy, but not only are they healthy, they've changed their style. You know, they tried to grind us to a pulp last year, playing big, and they were slowing the ball down, slowing the pace down. This year, they've added Channing Frye. They're not playing Mozgov. They've got shooting all over the place, and they're playing a much faster pace. So it's really a much different team than we're seeing.
Diamond on the right.
Diamond Leung, Barry News Group. Steve, Bob was saying that you called him before making the decision on Andre and Harrison, just kind of to talk things through. I was curious, how difficult of a call was that to make for your staff? What are the advantages of starting Andre, and just between us, what are you going to do?
I like the first part of the question. I'll answer that. I won't tell you what I'm going to do, but the thinking is, you know, do we really want to change anything? We've gone 2 years with Harrison starting, and it's been a pretty good 2 years. So do you go away from something that you've been successful with? On the flip side, it's the playoffs. You can make adjustments like we did last year against Cleveland, putting Andre in the lineup, and sometimes those adjustments are good. So that's kind of what you're weighing is, you know, the positives and the negatives going in when you're talking about an adjustment into the lineup, and you weigh it and you make your decision and you hope for the best.
Mark, here in the front.
Mark Spears, ESPN's Undefeated. Coach, can you talk about just Steph, how he seems to be motivated anytime there's been a slight or a dig that he's faced this season? Have you noticed that? Or?
Yes. Steph is extremely competitive in a very humble way. He doesn't have to say anything. He does his talking through his play, basically. But he definitely is motivated by things that people say about him or things that he reads or anything like that. The guy is as gifted and skilled as he is. I think one of his greatest attributes is his competitive fire. And a lot of people don't know that because of his demeanor, but he's an incredible competitor.
So do you think his background, the school he went to, kind of brings him back to that, is kind of where he gets that drive from?
You mean the fact that he wasn't recruited by the big schools? Yeah, I'm sure that was part of it. He's kind of always been the underdog, and all of a sudden he's the two-time MVP. That's a strange situation. Hardly any players have ever done that. I guess Steve Nash would be the other that would come to mind right away. But yeah, Steph is he's just got his head on straight. Great family background. He's got great perspective on the world and how fortunate he is, and he seems to bring the right blend of rationality and confidence.
Mark, second row.
Steve, Mark Schwartz, ESPN. In the same way that Steph maybe gets some motivation out of some of the slights that he's received, maybe some other players on your team also are fueled by that sort of thing. Could you talk about the ones who are most fueled by being told they're not going to be good enough, they haven't been good enough, and they're not going to win a series or a championship?
Mark, if you want to talk about Draymond, just ask about Draymond. I mean, I assume that's who you're talking about. Yeah, every player is different. You know, every player needs to motivate himself however he needs. So Draymond finds any little slight to get himself going, and that's great. He's our emotional leader. He's our slightly crazy, gives us the edge type guy that you need to compete at the highest level. And whatever he needs to do to motivate himself, he does.
Back right.
Good afternoon, Coach Kerr. My name is Eduardo Agra from ESPN Brazil. And I would like to hear from you your thoughts about the contribution of the two Brazilians that you have on the team, Anderson Varejão and Leandro Barbosa.
Anderson and Leandro are fantastic, great teammates. They bring a lot of joy to our locker room, a lot of humor, a lot of energy. They both play support roles. They haven't played a ton of minutes in the playoffs, but the minutes they do play are very important. I thought when they were out on the floor together in Game 7 against Oklahoma City, they had an enormous impact on the game. Anderson played 1 minute and 51 seconds, and he had 2 assists, a basket, and he took a charge. And his hair was flying everywhere, and he was howling these emotional shrieks and yells that was, that were getting the crowd going and his teammates going. And I thought the game changed when he went out there. LB's been the same way for us, last year and this year. Instant energy, and they are both loved by their teammates.
Right here in the front.
Janie McCauley from AP. What is this like for you the second time around as a coach and everything that you went through this year to get back to this point? And do you reflect on anything that you learned last year in the finals that you can take?
Yeah, my before last year, the previous time that I'd been in the finals was as a player in 2003. So 12 years passed before I made it back, and the difference in the media setup, the amount of media, the requirements, media being allowed in practice, having to practice in the arena, totally disrupting the kind of the daily schedule that you're normally on throughout the regular season. It's all very different. And so last year, I think it was a little bit of a shock to our guys' system to have to change our routine. This year, we've been through it. We're used to it. I don't think it'll bother us.
Fourth row on the right.
Coach Lisa Su from Tencent. First question, did you see any different or mentality improvement from Draymond Green since the Game 3 to Game 7? Did you see
Just improvement in his play? Or
I mean the mentality part.
Oh, his mentality?
The instant, from the Game 3 to the Game 7, he really, step up. Did you see any different from him?
Yeah, I thought Draymond did a much better job of not complaining to the referees. After Game 3, he was sort of on probation, and so he when he had bad calls, he may have discussed those calls with the referees, but he did it in a better way, and he didn't get himself in any trouble. And he knows he's got to be somewhat careful because of the technical foul rule and the flagrant stuff as well.
And then second question, you were saying the two teams definitely going to play faster than last year. So what do you expect from the big guys of your team?
Well, we have to be ready to cover a lot of the floor. They have 3-point shooting bigs with Fry and Love, so we can't lose sight of them. But we've got to try to protect the rim as well, and that's a big challenge. Just like teams that play us with our shooting and spacing, it's hard to cover all that court. But that's what this series seems to be about. Both teams are shooting a lot of threes and trying to run, and it'll be a very difficult defensive matchup for both teams.
John in the middle, and then Joe over here.
John Schumann, NBA.com. Coach, you talked a little bit about their floor spacing bigs.
How does that affect the way you defend LeBron? Is it harder to make him a jump shooter when he's got so many weapons around him? He's shooting less from the outside than he ever has. I wonder if the supporting cast has something to do with it, do you think?
For sure, yeah. I mean, last year we generally were playing against two bigs, Mozgov and Thompson, so we were able to help more around the paint and force more jump shots. And it will be much more difficult now with Fry and Love, so our tactics will have to change a little bit.